співпраці між різними університетами, католицькими університетами Європи. І зараз для нас насправді є великою приємністю приймати двох гостей з Католицького університету Лювену. That you understand the Catholic University of Luven. So we are happy to host two guest lecturers, Professor Annemary Meijer and also Peter De May, who will be presenting his topic tomorrow at the same time, at 4 o'clock. Professor Annemary Meijer is Associate Professor at the Faculty of Theology and Religious Studies of this Catholic University of Luven. She is the member of the research unit of systematic theology and the study of religions. The research focuses in dogmatic theology, Christology, but also in ecclesiology and also humanism. As we see, today's wonderful topic is ecumenical vision of Pope Francis. I've looked up at a little bit of the background of Annemary, and I've discovered pleasantly that you're, as a promoter, you're part of several projects. One of them is Christian and Muslim perspectives on dialogue, appreciation from a Mindanao context. Another one,
Mindanao in the Philippines, this island where they have a lot of problems and tensions.
Another project is transformation through dialogue, ecumenical and interreligious identities in Nigeria. There's another project, a critical study of the Nigerian context in light of Edward Schillebeck's and Walter Cosper and Frank Macchia, Catholic Pentecostal dialogue, and also revelation and interpersonal dialogue between God and human beings, a comparative study of the theology of revelation according to Karl Rahner and the Second Vatican Council with the selective reception analysis. So from these just brief outlines, you can see that the field of expertise of Annemary is quite broad, and we're extremely happy that besides Nigeria and Western European context, we are also coming to learn a bit more about Eastern Europe and also Japan. So without any further ado, I present to you Annemary Meijer with the topic of ecumenical vision of Pope Francis.
Thank you. Well, thanks first of all for the kind introduction and also for the possibility to talk to you today. I know it's a bit of a challenge in this wonderful weather to sit inside and listen to someone talking in English. So let's do it like this. If there is anything you don't understand, if you have any problems with what I'm saying, then please interrupt me. That's much better than keeping all your questions for understanding till the end. But I would actually like to suggest that in terms of discussion, that we only, topical discussion, that we are doing that then towards the end of our session. And perhaps another few points of information. So for me, English is also a foreign language. I'm German. I actually had to work and function in English when I was employed by the Vatican in 2011. I was working then for the Pontifical Council for Promoting Christian Unity. But I wasn't working from Rome. I was delegated to work from Geneva. So I was working as the representative of the Roman Catholic Church, or well, the Catholic Church actually, also representing guys like you, in Geneva. They call it Roman Catholic Consultant or Catholic Consultant. No one knows what that means. It basically means that if anything happens in the ecumenical world where they can ask Catholic advice, then they knocked at my door. And otherwise I was just a staff member of the World Council of Churches and working with them in ecumenism. It wasn't a kind of, first when I was asked to do this job, I was a little bit reluctant and thought, well, they will probably in Geneva think that I am the Roman spy. But it wasn't like this. And so just to give you a kind of idea why I am working now with you about Pope Francis and his ecumenical vision. So I'll speak from here because then I can sort of master my device here. What I want to explain to you is, first of all, the very special standing of Pope Francis, that he is the Pope of many firsts, also in ecumenical respects. Then we could have a closer look at his ecumenical program. You know that in 2013 he published Evangelii Gaudium as his first real publication. And so there you have 3 paragraphs on ecumenical dialogue, and we talk about them. Then he is very active in making some very interesting ecumenical connections with Pentecostals and charismatic churches and church leaders. And that's where he actually gave a video message, and there one of the quotations is, "The mystery of unity has already begun." And we can look into that a little bit more closely. Then I would like to broaden the denominational perspective, because there are some parallels, for instance, in the Church of England or in the Anglican Communion going on, so that we also see how others are tackling the same problems and how Pope Francis is sort of interacting with them. And the last bit would then be talking about a newly emerging ecumenical paradigm. I can already tell you it's what they call these days blood ecumenism. It wasn't invented by Pope Francis, but it's intensified. So it was sort of invented by John Paul II. Perhaps some of you recall that in 2000 he was doing these prayers for forgiveness. He was asking for forgiveness. And in that context also there was a big celebration in 2000 in the Colosseum in Rome, where he was commemorating all the martyrs, also the modern martyrs of Christianity. And this new paradigm is actually saying, well, the enemies of Christianity, those who persecute Christians and kill them, they don't kill Catholics, Protestants, Orthodox, they just kill Christians. So for them as aggressors, it doesn't matter that there are differences between the different denominations, the different churches. And so, for instance, one important example of this were the martyrs of Uganda, where the same amount of Anglican Christians and Catholic Christians were killed together, and they are now, well, I mean, the Catholics, they are beatified. But of course it's very difficult talking about canon law. You can't just easily beatify someone who isn't a member of the Catholic Church. It's a question of transgressing your own church borders and your own legal district, so to speak. But nevertheless, it's something that is very much appreciated also by the Anglicans, that the Roman Catholics, or that the Catholics as such, are always mentioning these people as well, so the Anglicans, when they are talking about the Ugandan martyrs. And so this is something where ecumenism can become, well, a kind of combination of spiritual ecumenism plus some practical networking, where you say, yeah, well, we are all suffering from the same persecution, so why not witness together? That's something to keep in mind. But that's then towards the end. Well, so that's what we are going to do. When Jorge Mario Cardinal Bergoglio was elected Pope on 13th March 2013, the Catholic Church had its first non-European Pope in over 1200 years. I don't know whether anyone of you knows that there was a Pope Gregory III. Gregory III came from Syria, so he was non-European, let's say, Near East, but that was actually really, ever since 1200 years, the first non-European Pope. And when he appeared on the loggia, he said, "My brother cardinals have gone to the ends of the earth to give Rome a bishop." And this means he was the first Latin American Pope ever. He was the first, or still is the first Jesuit Pope ever. He was in 167 years the first religious who has been elected a Pope. So you have really many firsts. And the question is now, by the way, if you want to do some reading about him, there are some recent publications which I can suggest to you to have a look at. And now the question is, of course, what are the firsts with respect to ecumenism? Because, well, are there any firsts? And if so, yes, you can already guess there are some. In ecumenical respects, there certainly are also a few firsts. He is the first pope who ever visited the Waldensians. I don't know whether you know about the Waldensians. That's Waldes. He started, like Francis of Assisi, he started a movement of poverty, but his movement wasn't recognized, and then later on they are mainly confined to Italy, where he was then working and are a kind of, well, Italian Protestants. Let's put it like that. So he visited them for the first time. And he was the first bishop of Rome, or the first pope, to invite the Salvation Army to the Vatican, which is also one of the firsts. Within the last 1,000 years, Pope Francis is the only bishop of Rome, let's do it like this, is the only bishop of Rome at whose inauguration an ecumenical patriarch was present. That was very exceptional, that hadn't happened before. And as far as we know in terms of records, it probably didn't happen ever since the anathematization. And whether it happened before, we don't know. We are not knowing the records. He has meanwhile established good cooperation with Patriarch Bartholomew. In May 2014, Pope and Patriarch visited together the Holy Land. As you know, this was the celebration of the 50th anniversary of the apostolic pilgrimage to Jerusalem by Patriarch Athenagoras and Paul VI. So they were commemorating that together. That was on the 5th of January 1964 that Athenagoras and Paul VI met in Jerusalem. Pope Francis visited the Patriarch then in November 2014 at Phanar. And from 1st September 2015, he introduced into the Catholic Church the World Day of Prayer for the Care of Creation. It takes place on the 1st of September, so it's a new feast in the Catholic calendar, and that coincides with the beginning of the ecclesial year in the Orthodox tradition. So it's very important to see that there are some practical resonances. By the way, how is it with the English? Are you okay with that, or good? So, for the first time since the founding of the Moscow Patriarchate in 1589-90, or more precisely, for the first time since Pope Eugene IV met with Metropolitan Isidore of Kiev and Moscow at the Council of Ferrara in 1438-39, the Pope met with the Patriarch of Moscow, Kirill. On 12th of February 2016 in Havana Airport, Cuba. One of the more tangible outcomes, so there you also have something where you can put your finger to, is that